Okay, good. Hello, everybody. My name is Diane Delano, and I am Senior Policy Analyst at the Advocates for Children of New Jersey. Hello, and welcome to our final Lunch and Learn before summer break. I want to thank all of you that have been attending our Lunch and Learns over the course of the series, and we hope you'll join us again when we start up again in September. And if you have any suggestions for topics, please let us know. We'd love to hear from you. Today, I am really excited about our topic and our presenter. Fathers and fatherhood issues usually don't get the attention they deserve. So, in honor of Father's Day this Sunday, I'm thrilled to introduce to you our presenter, Christopher Brown, who is president of the National Fatherhood Initiative, who will be sharing findings from their recent report, The 154 Billion Man, the Economic Argument for Investing in Fathers. Christopher is a leading expert in fatherhood program development and advocacy. And he has been with the National Fatherhood Initiative for over 25 years. Woo, that is a long time. And he's also the primary developer of the National Fatherhood Institute's flagship programs, including 24/7 Dad, Inside Out Dad, and Understanding Dad. And just this week, it's so exciting, he has released his newest book, The 24/7 Dad, 12 Habits of Confident Fathers. He's also authored numerous capacity building workshops, brochures, pocket guides, and other skill building materials designed to enhance father engagement. So I'm going to turn it over to Christopher because he has a lot of material to cover, and then we'll be followed by a question and answer period. Christopher?
All right, thanks, Diane, and thank you to the Advocates for Children of New Jersey for inviting me to present today on this important report. This is exactly why we wrote the report that I'll share with you today. We want people using the report in communities to create change around father involvement. So one of the things that Diane didn't share with you is I'm a recently newly minted grandfather. I've got a 2-year-old granddaughter, and my older daughter and her husband are expecting their second in November. So I've started my grandfather journey, which is different and in some ways a little less stressful than the fatherhood journey that I've been on for the past 30 plus years. But anyway, that's a little bit about me. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. I've got a PowerPoint presentation that I'm going to use. So without further ado, hold on just a second. Having a little hard time maximizing the window. There we go. All right, can everybody see my slides okay? Can you see that, Diane?
Yes, we can see it.
Okay,
Yes.
just wanted to make sure. Okay. So the title of the presentation today is From Data to Action, using the 154 Billion Man Report to support greater investments in fathers. And so there's me, smiling face and all. You have learned a little bit about me, so I'll quickly move past that to our agenda. And I'm going to provide a brief background on the two organizations that collaborated to create this report. Then I'll move into an overview of the report's findings, and importantly, how to use the report. And then if there's time left, and hopefully there will be, I will be happy to field any questions that you may have about the report and how to use it. So about National Fatherhood Initiative. So our mission is to increase father involvement by equipping communities and human service organizations with the training, programs, and resources they need to be father inclusive. So we do not serve dads directly. Instead, we serve the human service organizations in communities that work with families day in and day out and build their capacity to work with fathers. And our vision is that all communities and human service organizations are proactively father inclusive so that every child has an involved, responsible, and committed father in their life. So we partnered with our longtime partner, the Center for Policy Research out of Denver, which is a 45-year-old Colorado-based nonprofit that's dedicated to improving the lives of children, families, and communities by evaluating programs and policies designed to help them and disseminating research findings to service providers and policymakers. So I must say that CPR, Center for Policy Research for short, really carried the heavy water on this particular report. Our role was primarily to oversee the report, how to frame the report, and most importantly, how to help folks in communities use the findings to create change. So to download the report, you can either go to our website, fatherhood.org, that first link, or CPR's website, the second link, and you can download the report from either of those locations. So what is the 154 billion man report? Well, first of all, it updates our unique report from 2008 called the $100 billion man. And that particular report looked at federal expenditures for father-absent households from 14 major government assistance programs using data from 2006. And these were government assistance programs where we could link spending to household type. What the recent report does is it improves the reliability of that 2006 data and then compares the 2018 data in this current report to the 2006 data for the same 14 programs. And what's different about this report compared to the first report is that it includes some very specific recommendations to strengthen the economic position of fathers and promote positive engagement in their children's lives. So before we get to the findings of the federal expenditures for those 14 programs, I want to just give you a little bit of background on the families, the households that we focused on. So if you look at the living arrangements of children in 2023, you can see that approximately 1/4 of all children grow up without a present father in the home. And what do we mean by present father? We mean physically present, and he is either the child's biological step or adoptive father. Now that doesn't include fathers who are not living with their children who are very involved. We know from a lot of research that there are many involved non-resident fathers, but from the data that we have from the census, we're looking at physically present fathers in the household. So those would be children living with mother only and also with no parent. Now, what do we see with the composition of single mother-headed households over time? So starting in 1960 is when we started to see a rapid increase in the proportion of children growing up without a present father in the home. And when we look at the drivers of father absence, we see that the composition of these households is quite different over time. So starting in 1980, you can see I've created two lines here with the gold arrows, one pointing to the proportion of those households that were created by divorce versus the very small proportion that were created by never married single mothers and fathers. But you can see over time how that composition has changed so that the primary driver of father absence today is never married parenting. Also, another important thing to look at in terms of the comparison of household types is comparing married households versus single mother-headed households. And you can see that there are a number of advantages that children have when they grow up in married households, and that there are certain drivers for fathers in terms of their economic contribution to their families. So, for example, if you just look at college education, you can see that in married households, you have much higher rates of college education for mothers and fathers compared to single mother-headed households. In terms of fathers' real earnings from 1980 to 2019, you can see that there's a great increase for college-educated fathers over this time period and a decrease for non-educated fathers that are associated with single mother-headed households. So the bottom line here is that education is a key driver of the economic contribution that fathers make to households. You can also see from the the bottom row there in terms of government assistance usage that in terms of married households, only 14.7% of those households use at least one government assistance program per month versus 50%, half of single mother-headed households. So, and when we look at child outcomes, I'm sure many of you are familiar with this data. There are many correlates associated with father absence, including things like poor academic performance, low adult employment and earnings, and higher rates of incarceration, teen pregnancy, behavioral problems, and substance abuse. But also we know that government assistance programs help alleviate or mitigate some of these issues to a certain extent. We know that for families that are in the situation and they're receiving government program assistance, that we see improved academic performance, an increase in adult employment and earnings, reductions in behavioral problems, and improvements in adult health. So one of the key messages that we are sending with this report is the dual message of the importance of providing economic support for fathers and at the same time continuing to provide economic support for single mother-headed households. It's not an either-or situation, it's a both-and situation. So in terms of the research, the study that is the basis for this report, so we use two main data sources, the federal budget for these 14 assistance programs and the Survey of Income and Program Participation, or SIP for short, which is a survey that looks at household type and the participation of each household type in those 14 federal assistance programs. So one of the differences between the initial report and this report was the initial report used 14 different data sources. This report only used one data source, and that makes this data more reliable in the recent report. So the analysis included those 14 government assistance programs that cover things such as income support, nutritional support, health support, early childhood support, and energy and housing support. And we estimated the total program costs that go to single mother-headed households for 2006 compared to 2018. Now, why did we not go beyond 2018? Because of COVID and the impact that increased federal funding to support households had. Had we looked at COVID era data, it would have given us an outsized impact of federal spending versus what we normally spend. So that's why we looked at 2018 data. And all of the data in the report is adjusted to 2018 dollars to account for inflation. So what are the main findings? Well, in 2018, federal expenditures for those 14 government assistance programs for single mother-headed households totaled $154.2 billion. That represented an increase in real dollar expenditures of nearly 55% for those same programs in just a 12-year period. That surprised us, frankly. We weren't expecting to see that big of an increase. And this actually underestimates the true cost. This is only federal spending for 14 government assistance programs to which we could link household type. And so there are a lot of other government assistance programs that are supporting father-absent households that we don't have household type that we can link to. It also doesn't include state dollars that may be required to match federal assistance that comes through the states, not to mention local dollars that go to support father-absent homes. So that's a very conservative estimate. All three types of single mother-headed households, never married, separated, divorced, and widowed, receive a variety of benefits in proportion to their incidence in the SIP sample. So based on this and a lot of other work that both National Fatherhood Initiative and the Center for Policy Research have been doing from a policy perspective around supporting fathers and also supporting single mother-headed households, we have a number of policies and program recommendations that include helping reduce the costs and stress associated with child rearing, enhancing the economic position of fathers, addressing racism and other structural inequities in the economy, and programs that can help better engage fathers in family services. We know that more research is needed on things such as educational programs to enhance co-parenting and father involvement. Co-parenting is one of the primary topics and issues that is related to the presence of fathers in all household types. So there's been a rapid increase in the work that we've done at National Fatherhood Initiative to help organizations help parents to co-parent effectively. There's more research needed on father participation in all types of family services and programs. Household type and race ethnicity of participants in government programs needs to be more effectively tracked. The types of policies and programs that build fathers' economic capacity need to be increased. And we need to do some research on the return on investment for father-supported policies and programs. I've been doing this work for nearly 30 years, and I can point to a handful of studies that have attempted to look at the return on investment or the ROI of fatherhood programs and services. We need to do more research on that. So, how do you use the report? Well, there are many uses depending upon where you sit. For example, whether you're working at a federal level, a state level, or a local level for how you can use this report. First of all, you can raise awareness internally within your organization and externally about the importance of a father's presence. You can use the report to help secure public and private support, funding for father-supportive policies and funding for local and statewide fatherhood and family strengthening initiatives. You can use the report to bolster the research and evaluation literature in what works in strengthening child, family, and community well-being. And there are many more ways in the how to use report section located at the end of the report. So at the very end of the report, and it's actually not a part of the report, but it's an attachment to it, is the how to use the report document. In addition to the report in that document, we provided as handouts today an infographic that summarizes the report's findings and recommendations, as well as two brand new free resources from National Fatherhood Initiative, one for folks who are working in state and local governments on how to better fund and support father involvement work in your community, and the same type of document for NGOs, non-governmental organizations, to acquire funding for this really important work. So again, many ways at the state level, at the local level, and as I mentioned, those resources and handouts. And that is the presentation. Certainly, there's a lot more data, a lot more background on the study in the report itself. I definitely encourage you to download it and share it widely.